Hey, good evening, everyone. First of all, thanks to everyone for coming out to the DNewTech, our October edition. We've been doing this since 2010. We just talked about that. That we've been here close to over 6 years now. We're kind of a spin-off out of Ann Arbor NewTech. If you're not too familiar with Ann Arbor, they're the third Tuesday every month in downtown Ann Arbor at the Law Building. We started this out in Detroit. We're a little bit different that we do go to different spots besides just downtown Detroit. Our main supporter or sponsor this year is Grand Circus. They actually host a lot of our events downtown Detroit. But Open University Inc., Amy Butler, has been very gracious in hosting at least two of them twice a year here on the campus of Oakland University. We also want to thank all other sponsors, including Invest Detroit, and we've done a meetup earlier this year, and then also Tech 248, which is another organization that started out by Oakland County, and Greg Doyle is his name, and he works for the county for Al Brooks Patterson, and their job is to kind of work with all the startup and technology companies in the Oakland County to kind of network them so that they know not only resources such as starting the business, but also hiring now. They're getting into staffing as well as some type of funding. So pretty much DNewTech, we meet the first Wednesday every month. Very simple. We give 5 people here startup companies to pitch. We have 5 companies that came. 2 of them are not with us today. We got 3 startups. They're pretty cool. And then we're going to start off with some of our presenters. I'm going to introduce you to Steve Kent. He is the finance operator for OUInc. He is here in place of Amy Butler.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll try to do my best to imitate Amy Butler. You're at OUInc. We are a business incubator in Smart Zone. We're affiliated with the City of Rochester Hills to create a technology hub. We are on the campus of Oakland University, but we're focused on creating the glue between the academic world and the business world by having both a business incubator and we also do business accelerator. In this building, this used to be the Dodge family riding stables, indoor riding stables, and it's been converted into office space and technology spaces like this for co-working and for meetings like this, and we're very glad to have you here today. We have 16 tenants on site, both in offices and in labs in the back of the building, and we currently support another 35 business accelerator tenants or clients. We help incubate and accelerate by providing the right services and getting the right people to or with the startup companies and entrepreneurs, including intellectual property help, any kind of legal aid, any kind of technical aid, IT support, etc. Plus, as part of being part of Oakland University's incubator, you have access to all the resources available through Oakland University. Welcome. I hope you have a great session, and thank you for the opportunity to introduce.
Well, I also want to say thank you to Steve at OUInc for providing the food, the location, the venue. I want to say thank you very much for it.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to go start off with Mike. Mike, he is the finance. I would say that he's the CEO of the Hitachi Business Finance. So I know Mike back in my other startup days too. So I invited Mike to kind of give you guys an update with what he's doing now and what his role is with the company.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much. Yep. I know everybody wants to listen to the companies that are here tonight versus me talking, so I'll try to keep it short and sweet. We talked a little bit about, Ron asked me to talk a little bit about myself and what I'm doing in the community here. My office is right on Rochester, actually right on University, right outside of downtown Rochester. My background is in the finance space. I've been lending money to post-revenue companies for about 25 years. I created a company in 2002, a startup, after spending a lot of years with a traditional bank, and the first thing I thought was, taking a startup, it's going to be easy, I'm in this space, I know what to do. And then I go from working with a company that has a lot of resources to working out of my house with absolutely no resources. So you almost start all over. And the challenge from a startup perspective is, how do you get prepared and how do you go through this process of coming up with an idea and being successful about it. So from a background standpoint, we started that company in 2002, took it forward to 2012, and my partners and I sold it to Hitachi, which is the global Japanese company that wanted to enter into the finance space. In the United States, we have a headquarters in Connecticut that does a lot of equipment leasing, but they wanted to have a little bit more diversified revenue, asset-based lending, so they bought the business to kind of launch that area. And what we do is we lend money to post-revenue companies, anything from $500,000 a year in annual sales all the way up to $50 million plus. In addition to the capital we provide, we try to be more consultative. So we try to work with business owners, try to shorten their learning curve a little bit, talk a little bit about kind of what it means to be a startup and what it's going to take to do the right things at the right time so that they stay focused and be directed. So today, just again, kind of finish up, wanted to kind of leave you with kind of 5 things that we talk to entrepreneurs about, kind of thinking about what do they do, not only from a startup phase, but through their growth history, is one, just being prepared. So making sure that you're prepared for your business, putting together presentation materials, or knowing your product, knowing who your audience is before you start pitching them. 2, looking at it from a perspective of being realistic. So having realistic expectations both for the growth side, also for the customer side, fundraising, everything that kind of goes into the business. So the kind of the hopes and dreams of most entrepreneurs, which need to happen, we have to kind of dial it back a little bit to make sure you have some realistic expectations as you're out in the marketplace. The 3rd piece is to surround yourself with good people. So look for mentors in the marketplace. I know with OU, we've done some work with the incubator, having residents on staff, having business coaches that they can tap into, help you shorten your learning curve and give you some advice along the way, because it's not only just a one and done, they stay with you during your life cycle if you tap into the right folks. Staying focused. A lot of entrepreneurs have a lot of ideas and get distracted periodically, so staying focused on your business and making sure that you execute along the way versus being distracted with the next shiny new object. And last, what we try to tell our folks is know your strengths. So know what you're good at when you develop the product or you go out to the marketplace, and then try to hire people or bring people on that can complement you. So if your strong suit is product development or if it's sales, don't try to be the finance manager. It's just not going to work. So those 5 items is really what we kind of focus on from a business owner's perspective. Try to give them some takeaways as we meet with them. So that's a little bit about us, what we do. I'll be hanging around, listening to the presentations, and happy to answer questions as we go through the night. So thank you so much.
Any question for Mike at all by any chance? I mean, again, this is very informal. Again, we're going to go ahead and get started. If there's no question for Mike, we'll start with Elliott with SmallWorld, and we'll let you.
Do I just plug it in? Do I hit anything?
Yep. Oh, sorry. I thought we did the test one already. I think it's all you have to do is VGA one.
Number 2. Before I begin, I want to ask everyone a question. Have you ever been part of a community that you haven't felt connected to? I certainly have. And that's exactly the problem that SmallWorld is trying to solve. My name is Elliott Brannon. I'm the CEO of SmallWorld. SmallWorld strengthens communities by facilitating high-quality connections between community members. Connected communities are happier, more inclusive, more innovative, and more productive. SmallWorld has the power to improve community dynamics and is also easy to use. A community administrator simply creates a personalized invite page and sends this page to community members. Community members then use the page to sign up, and our software randomly pairs members. We then send out the pairings through email. The pairs then meet up. They meet up for coffee, lunch, low commitment, one-on-one interaction. We then repeat this process at a regular interval. Every month, every 2 weeks, every week, it's up to the community. To tell you a little bit more about SmallWorld, I'd like to describe our first pilot in the University of Michigan Medical School last year. Last year I was a medical student, I was a first-year medical student, and I was having trouble connecting with my classmates. Most medical students don't go to class anymore. Everything is streamed online, everything is filmed, and students just watch it at home, usually at double speed. And so I sent out this idea to my classmates, and within 2 weeks, over 90 busy medical students signed up. We sent out new connections every 2 weeks, and over the course of the year, we sent out over 600 connections. 100% of survey participants said they found value in the connections they made through SmallWorld. We didn't know it at the time, but we were actually solving another problem. When communities form, individuals tend to segregate themselves based on similarity like interest, race, gender, class, hierarchy. In sociology, this is called homophily, and it leads to these subgroups or cliques that form within communities. Over and over again, from the survey we did, participants said that they found value in SmallWorld connections because it connected them with people outside of their subgroup or clique. I've been talking a lot about community, and you might wonder what I mean by that. Well, I'll tell you right now that I don't really know. We think that SmallWorld will work in very many different kinds of communities because many communities suffer from these silos created by homophily. So what we're doing this fall, our goal was to set up 5 pilot sites across University of Michigan, across Michigan, to test whether SmallWorld would work in many different communities. We are in the process of setting up 5 sites and talking to 10 to 15 additional sites across University of Michigan, across Michigan, and across the nation. So the business model for SmallWorld is relatively simple. We would charge per connection, a relatively low fee. We're not exactly sure yet. If we charge 25 cents per connection, then the fee for a community would be about $300 for a community of 100 over a year. And this would be charged to a community administrator. It wouldn't be charged to the end users. But we feel that because we have this value proposition that we're strengthening communities, that this is something that community administrators would be interested in. We're also exploring additional features, such as a smarter matching algorithm and connectivity analytics that we can offer to our communities. Here are a list of our competitors, and what most of our competitors have in common is that they focus on the individual connections. We don't do that. We focus on the community. Other connection apps use a matching algorithm that match people who are similar. But drawing again from sociology, the theory of weak ties suggests that if you bring together 2 people who are similar, who have the same information, the same perspectives, there's not going to be much information exchange there. On the other hand, if you bring together 2 people who are different, who have different information and different perspectives, then there's going to be much more information, and that's exactly what we're doing. We're doing it for the health of communities, so that communities can share information and share resources. So this is the team. My name is Elliott Brannon. I have experience working in a range of fields from astrophysics to epidemiology. Our finance officer, Rob Cesara, has 10 years experience working in venture capital. And then Whit Froelich, all of us are medical students, and Whit is working on our research. So again, we're SmallWorld. I'd like to thank you for this opportunity encourage you to go to our website, highqualityconnections.com. And if you're interested in piloting a SmallWorld site in your community, or even here at Detroit NewTech, I'd be happy to talk with you about that. Thank you very much.
Usually we have 5 minutes for Q&A for each presenter. How many subscribers do you have right now?
So in the medical school, last year we had 100. It was just the first year of class. We are in the process of setting up. We launched our another pilot in the first year medical school class and one in the second year. I think we have about 50 people signed up right now in the first year class, and maybe like 20 or 30 in the second year class. But we're also launching I think we have about 10 applications in. All of our pilot sites complete an application, and so we have 10 additional sites that we're in the process of setting up.
And those are going to be subscription-based?
We're not charging pilot sites right now. People have offered to pay, but we don't think we're ready yet. Yes.
How is your organization different from Meetup? It sounds very much like Meetup.
So Meetup brings together people around a topic. It brings together large groups. We facilitate one-on-one interactions. So say if this Meetup wanted to use SmallWorld, what we would do is take the list of community members and then randomly pair them. And then say before a Meetup, we would send out the pairings through email. And at the Meetup, you would find your partner, and talk with them. You could either, talk with them here, or go out to coffee, or get lunch. But that's sort of how it's different. Does that make sense?
Meetup has a lot of flexibility to pare down to small, sharply narrow-focused subgroups as well, with analytics and a lot of different features that people can then decide on their own how they want to communicate, whether they want to go by Skype or meet some other small group, either physically or virtually.
I think there are some similarities. I would say what we do is we initiate the connections. I don't know if I don't know much about Meetup. I don't know if there is an aspect, a feature of Meetup that initiates connections. But I would say that is what makes us unique because, you have this big group, you have people interested in talking about a topic, but there's no real initiating factor there. And when you don't have an initiating factor, then individuals within the groups tend to segregate themselves. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Given the conditions, yes.
Yes.
How do you do the matching? You mentioned random, and then you also said you're improving the matching algorithm.
Yes, so we're working with a couple of professors at the School of Information. They think they can develop a smarter matching algorithm. I'm somewhat skeptical, but I think our smarter matching algorithm would actually bring together people who are different rather than people who are similar, because that's matching algorithms now, say for dating or whatever, bring together people who are similar, right? But I think since we're trying to strengthen the communities, trying to bring together people who would not have otherwise met, ours might be based on differences.
Does the person in the community start with a profile? Is there a profile completion, or how do you start at the top and then kind of narrow down so that you can match person A with person B that have not the same?
Right, so how it works now is a community administrator creates an invite page, and the invite page describes their goal for using SmallWorld in their community, because each community can have a slightly different goal. And then it has an FAQ, and at the bottom, all we take is your name and email address. You don't have to create a profile or anything like that. And then you can visit the page again if you ever want to unsubscribe. You can join or leave at any time.
So based on your interest level in that community is the
yes. Yeah, so each community has a unique invite link.
Who's your typical community administrator? How does that person get selected, or so they have to pay for it, right?
Right.
Who's the typical profile for that?
I mean, right now we're testing where it works. We have some of our pilot sites include, the medical school, again, they're using it for all faculty at University of Michigan Medical School. There's a health clinic in Ypsilanti that's using it, the Ann Arbor Film Festival. There's several conferences that are interested, student groups. There's several faith communities that are pilot sites. So right now, we really don't know who, I guess, our first market is. We're going to do these pilot sites and then sort of evaluate after we get data from that.
Is there a rating system or anything, a feedback loop, where the folks that are interacting, that they can either provide feedback about their interactions to, kind of keep it moving forward? Whether it's good, was good, bad, or, and then collecting that information to maybe change the algorithm?
Right, so we do collect whether two people have met or not. We haven't really looked into collecting additional information just because, so right now our algorithm is completely random. And I think the fear with that would be if we bring together two people who are different, then they might not get along as well. They might say that's a negative interaction. But I think that still provides a lot of value for the community because that interaction is occurring and it wouldn't have otherwise occurred. So I think that's something that we might be interested in collecting, but I think we need to be wary of that.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I mean, I like the idea of small world and community, but most of your interactions you're saying it's going to be one-on-one outside the community. Like how does that conversation, let's say I got matched with some random person in the community, how does that information get back to the wider community? Because your community will grow if there is more information coming from each member. If the interactions are siloed into 2% or 3% group, how does the community thrive? How does the community get benefited out of this?
I think I think it's just the sharing of information between these individual interactions. Say, over the course of the year, we set up 600 meetings in the medical school, right? I mean, that's potentially 600 meetings that wouldn't have otherwise occurred. And so it's not we're setting up a lecture where information is disseminated to a bunch of people. A lot of information is being disseminated in these one-on-one meetings. And as far as measuring how it affects the community, I think that's something that we do need to explore.
Picking up on that and the measuring thing. So have you tracked whether these have blossomed into relationships and people are still, how much of that has occurred, or is there any way to track that?
We haven't, and going back to my previous point, that's actually a question that people often ask, do people say become friends or
get married?
Get married. That's often an example. And I'm sort of wary of that too, just because I don't expect a lot of these meetings to come out of it. There was another program out of the University of Michigan called Innovate Group, and what it did was it was basically one big list of any faculty member could join it. And it brought together faculty members to discuss their research. And so basically, they took 15 minutes, one person would discuss their research, 15 minutes the other person would. And the idea of that being, some sort of innovative research would come out of it if they, if they sort of made a connection there. And I think it did occur, and I think they actually are measuring it in that instance. But I also talked to a lot of faculty who participated, and they were they didn't find a lot of value in it because the innovation was occurring at such a low level. Say it was 1 out of every 20 meetings or something. that spawned like innovative research. And so I think it's sort of, it's difficult. I think that it's important, but we're not doing it right now.
Any more questions?
Thanks a lot.
Next we have Steve with Curo Technologies. You got it.
See the cameraman frantically working. That's usually my signal to just hang in there a little bit. But good evening. It's great to be here. I don't know if anybody here knows where Dexter is. Anybody familiar with? Okay, awesome. So my question is, from what direction from this point on the map is easiest to flow into at 5:30, 5:45 p.m. on a Wednesday? Because from Dexter, we don't have a clue about this, by the way. It's great to be here. It's taken a couple months to get on the schedule just because of travel and things like that. So I'm just thrilled to have the opportunity just to share a little bit about our company, Curo. And it's kind of an exciting story. So hopefully I kind of get the sense this is, I had a conference presenter talk to me today about a future date. And they said, well, we're going to do a forum that's kind of it's a TED conference mixed with Shark Tank, and I'm kind of pulsing that right now here, so that's awesome. So I hope we'll have some time for some questions as well. I might suggest that many of us either know of a story or personally had a story in their own life having to do with a care of or care about an older adult. We're living in those times when we're reading demographic information all the time. We know about the challenges, not just in our country, but globally. And it was that catalyst that actually started this company. So this was a great story about a couple brothers that were facing a personal dilemma themselves with a family member. And basically it was trying to know how their grandpa was doing when nobody was with their grandpa, all right, as the person was aging, and maybe a person has had one or two incidents, and that kind of puts fear into us, and we're working with care providers and things like that. But that's how this company really got started. And in the course of this short presentation, just talk a little bit about the dilemma and our solution and kind of where we are right now. I've worked for about 15 years in the aged care industry, and the basic challenge is that with the trends that are happening, our current solutions and how we do this work just are not sustainable, right? So we don't need to spend a lot of time on that, but we can assume that between money and other personal assets and resources and housing, etc., the way we've been doing this for the past few decades is not going to produce the recipe for success in the future, and nearly every country in the world is dealing with the same dilemma. That being said, the key to unlocking a few of the answers reside in just the ability to gather some more information, more valuable information, all right? And in doing that, we have the ability to start to utilize information to make better, more efficient, lower cost decisions in how we care, how we preserve health, how we intervene. And that's exactly where Curo comes in. Curo's really one of the first software solutions that is focused on a true scalable model for the future. All right, we're riding on the coattails of several companies that have used technology like we use, primarily in the commercial housing sector, so older adult campuses, independent living, assisted living. But no one's been able to really produce a model that's scalable where we need it, which is the current and the future private home environment. And when we say scalable, we're talking about things that are simple enough for all of us to use, efficient enough, and then of course low cost enough that's something to put into a home as opposed to a $70,000 or $80,000 infrastructure project on a senior housing campus is really what we're talking about. And so that's where Curo went to work. The technology really isn't that astounding, to be honest with you folks. It's we use hardware that any of us could buy off of Amazon right now. We've chosen not to be a hardware creator because, quite honestly, we've used 3 different solutions in the 3 years that we've been in existence, and we really believe that that's part of the recipe of the future as well, is to be hardware agnostic. We're basically an information gathering organization. Contextualize that and make sure it's utilized and capable of being utilized to its fullest. And what we're talking about is a few stakeholders, a big group of people that we would call caregivers, and whether that primarily is on the professional level. And what this needs is an opportunity to be able to see important information very quickly, usually in a large cohort. So we get into concepts like triaging and paying attention to people that look like they might have opportunities and be reassured that other people are doing fine. Expanding out the capability of serving more people with the current number of resources that many companies have. If you talk to any older adult service provider, they'll say their number one problem right now is finding and hiring more resources, and we have barely touched the tip of the iceberg on that problem. So one of the dilemmas we're solving on a regular basis is you can double the people that you're serving without adding a single other full-time employee. But again, it's back to simple. This is mobilely focused, so we've got 3 main entry points. We have a web portal, and then for professional caregivers, a mobile app that they can use, and then as well as our other stakeholders, which are family caregivers. So again, we're just talking about the efficiency. We've done a lot of research over 3 years to really deliver a solution that, quite honestly, relies on the least amount of information, the least amount of data to produce the highest rate of return, which is a complete opposite formula that a lot of high-tech companies utilize. The formula out there that we commonly hear is more is better, and certainly we have the technology to produce more data. The hardware we use right now, we're talking about basically ambient technology in homes, all right, as a category, so passive sensors that measure movement or movement of things, all right. So for some of you that are in the tech space, we're talking kind of a Internet of Things kind of category. But the reality is the hub that we use could handle 20 to 30 sensors, and the reality is we found out you really only need 6 in a house to produce high value, very efficient, very accurate information about the well-being of somebody that's living in that house. So again, the functionality for professional caregivers, commercial caregivers to be able to be very, very efficient, communicate with people out in the field, and start to use data to make decisions on a daily basis of who to see and who not to see, how to interact with them, and lowering the cost of interventions. For families, it's very intuitive, right? You would have an app on your phone, check in with mom or grandma, no interactions needed. This is passive information, 10,000 data points coming through our system for one person on a daily basis. We contextualize that for meaningful things like mom got up at the normal time, is going to bed at the normal time, normal amount of movement within the house, mom's eating, she's taking her pills. All of those things coming to you at a glance in about 10 seconds, you can see and be able to identify, hey, everything's great, by the way, and that's been a very valuable delivery, as well as, hey, instead of worrying about everything, there's only one thing that we're looking at that maybe needs our attention and interaction. And so again, it's focused on real efficient communication and dissemination of that information. So 2 brothers started this company. They both, all 3 of us actually have entrepreneurial experience. I really enjoyed your presentation because if I could click off 5 things, all those would be on the top 5 list for sure. And many startups get stuck with derailing in some of those areas. So I appreciated that. So I got 2 brothers that are really the tech backbone of our company as far as product design. And they're amazing. All right, I got into this with them in January after they had done 2 years of product development and proof of concept in Australia. This is a Melbourne, Australia company. All right. no revenue in Australia, just worked in Australia to refine their product. All right, they came to the United States because they wanted to find their first commercial pilot in the United States here. Fortuitously for all of us, and what I would think is and for the future of our industry, they found me through a contact with Brookdale, which is a major player in our industry, and with my former organization that was based in Ann Arbor, Evangelical Homes in Michigan, we actually launched the first commercial pilot in the United States. And through the course of that, I came on as CEO. So it's just been a phenomenal ride since then. So that was in January. Things have just taken off in Australia. We have 7 pilots ongoing. These are all paid commercial pilots. A lot of policy changes going on in Australia. 2 of those are insurance companies. So our major stakeholders that are starting to climb up toward the top, as you can imagine, are risk bearers that now are trying to get involved in making decisions to solve problems instead of just relying on providers to come up with those solutions. We're running out of time, quite honestly, to get good at innovation and putting a dent in this, all right? And it's not just financial, although the insurance companies would let you know that's certainly a key priority. So since I've been on board, we've launched about 5 or 6 things here in the United States. And interestingly enough, the funding that we were able to finally close here at the end of spring was not with a technology backer, even though we were aligned very, very closely with Samsung, both in Australia and the United States. It was with a healthcare company. So HCF backed us as far as funding, and which I'm very, very excited about, meaning that we can kind of talk to the public and to our future prospects and clients as really a healthcare company and not just a tech company, which we're excited about. And really the rollout of this is real simple, just to kind of wrap up. We're certainly a tech company that's using technology to gather information, contextualizing that, but we're also living in an industry that doesn't necessarily know how to use data yet, all right? And so that's a big roadblock. And so we're very, very invested in working on simplifying workflow to go from the models we have, which are a fee-for-service model, meaning all the care is predetermined and very slow to move as somebody changes their need. Very, very reactionary, right? We're very much an emergency alert healthcare system for older adults. To actually be proactive and using information to decide today how to interact with older adults to improve their life and save costs tomorrow. And so this model just kind of shows that quickly. I think the thing I'm probably most proud about in very, very short revenue production time from January to today, that we're nearly at about $500,000 in revenue, is the diversity of our clients. And again, we haven't done a single free pilot. There's enough pain in the environment out there that we've been able to go to market with our business model and call a pilot, but still get paid for it. And typically we're talking about capitated risk-based payers often that have a high incentive to try to figure out how to save money in a capitated fee amount. But we're also doing private pay models or rollouts as well, where companies are trying to decide how to commoditize that to the end user, which is happening. And it's certainly then our insurance companies that are on board as well, not just our funder, but 2 of the largest Australian one, and then one very, very significant brand name here in the United States that you would recognize. So in a very short time, we've been able to hit a bullseye with acceptance that it doesn't have to be complicated. We just have to make the information be meaningful and then help people know how to use that. So again, we're talking about sensors in the home, not cameras, but sensors that just measure things and report back. And it's a basic SaaS model. Our goal is that the hardware costs that right now are, to the consumer about $500, we'll be doing that at cost, and that cost is dropping all the time. I foresee before the end of next year, we're talking about a $200 figure. So when we're talking about going to market for 1,000 lives, for instance, it's actually a number for a company that's achievable. And then between $40 and $60 a month. And the nice thing about our model is we're talking about a subscription model for all-inclusive household, no matter how many people are accessing the data. And this is really, really important in our model because one of the keys to getting very effective at this is data transparency. And that just means the ability for all of us to share information when we have it and making that very easy to do. And what happens with a lot of models is they do a license fee schedule, and so for every person that accesses it, they want to charge a fee for accessing that information. And we've decided that that's not the model that's going to solve healthcare. And so when we can put a blanket on a house and charge one price, you can have 5 caregivers, 2 family members, and another company all looking at that data without getting exorbitant costs going up. We want more people to see it to be effective. That's really the focus. Where are we right now? Just to finish, again, we wrapped up our financing. So here in the United States, I was joking about driving because actually I go back to Australia once a month, and that seems like a voyage, but coming out here was a voyage. We're really working hard right now in the United States. We've kind of got our head down, plowing forward, and we're working hard on probably landing 1 or 2 really large scalable grants to quickly accelerate the proof of concept here in the United States. Oddly enough, the United States is lagging behind a couple other countries that we have revenue driving from, and it's just because we don't just have quite the same lean in right now. Most of the people you talk to will say, well, show me your 3 studies and then we'll decide to try. So we know there's a couple players out there, and like I said, we've got a couple things going right now that we expect to publish here in the next 6 months, but we're on this quest to say, there's another brand or 2 that cover lives that know that they want to be a go-to-market, a leader in knowing that information is really the key to this. So again, we're very, very excited to be here. I just sent one of our other directors back to Melbourne. The last thing that we've done just this month is we relocated the company from Melbourne, Australia to Ann Arbor, Michigan. And I get a lot of questions of why we did that. All kidding aside, that I live in Dexter, so Ann Arbor seemed really great. The other thing is we're really, really excited about a Southeast Michigan story with this company. We're being tracked by major insurers and even reinsurers of insurers, and I think it's awesome we're not in San Francisco. I think it's cool we're not in Boston, we're right here. And so we're really looking forward to the next year of writing that script and continuing what's going on here and even in the Washington County area with putting global companies, deciding that this is the best place to be. It has certainly nothing to do with clients because we're serving such a broad area, but the resources, we're going to be adding probably about 6 to 8 technology designers on our team. They'll all come right from here, and so that's going to be a neat story for us as well. I appreciate your time being here, and I'm certainly happy to answer any questions that you might have as well. Yes, sir.
Can you give a scenario of how this is used?
A scenario? Yeah, so I mean, typically a provider right now, we're a clear B2B model right now until probably a year and a half to now before we'll have a direct, B2C marketing campaign. But there would be a provider that has some investment in an older adult in a home that would install this kit in their home and start gathering information back about the well-being of that older adult in the efforts to maintain independence. The installation takes about 10 minutes. Any of us in this room could do it. Very, very simple. We do a lot of coaching about the conversation. We have a very, very high recruiting effort. These are not clients that we interact with directly. We're working a B2B model through providers. Most of our clients say within 2 days they forget there's a system in their house. They don't have to do anything. I've spent 5 years looking for technology that older adults will embrace and feel is non-invasive, and most of them require the older adult to do something on a daily or weekly basis, maybe log into something, take a survey, wear something. And you always have a percentage of them that may drop out after a relatively short period of time and disengage. And then we're right back to where we were. We have no information coming out of a house about how they're doing. This, once it's in, the older adults have to do nothing. I mean, you could have it in your home and you would have no indications that it's in there after a day. Does that answer that question for you?
Not exactly. I don't know what a person is doing. I mean, they're not, this is a monitoring system? that
So as far as saving
has
healthcare
a
costs,
monitoring system?
yeah, so as far as saving healthcare costs, most of our industry reacts after there's a healthcare problem, okay? So you're at the hospital with a broken hip maybe, and our system starts and you get, you go through Medicare and get healthy and that sort of thing, and then off you go again. There's a lot of opportunity to do early intervention when we see warning signs that are not even clinical about somebody starting to have difficulty. If any of your parents missed dinner for 2 nights in a row and they were home, we might be concerned. Or that the 6 p.m. medication that's for their cardiac, their cardiac condition has been missed for 3 days in a row, that we'd want to know that. Right now we don't. For most older adults. The normal volume of movement that they have inside their household suddenly has dropped off 40% over a period of 2 weeks. Those are awesome opportunities for us to intervene before we're catching them in the hospital because of a declining condition. And all of that is very, very clinically well-known information. We just have not invested in early glimpses insight to interact in those times.
So this is a check-in system for situations where there is no caregiver present.
It can be, or it can be intermittently when there is a caregiver, they're just not there at that time. And it's a check-in in the sense that you can look at it whenever you want. It's on your phone, you just look at it, and it's giving you real-time information about how things are right now and how things have been the last 12 hours or the last 24 hours. You don't have to call mom, you don't have to interact with mom, you're just viewing because it's passive sensor information that's coming to you that knows enough, the analytics are there to know enough that they actually ate dinner. Yes, sir.
So you have those sensors, put it into every senior's home, which will keep track of their motion, and they can figure it out the aged person took the medicine or not at 6 p.m.?
Yeah, so it's motion of people and motion of things that would be that would signify healthy activities. All right, like refrigerator doors and toilet seats and pill boxes. Right, all those things are attached to healthy activities that we would like to make sure are happening at a normal level. Right. Movement inside the house, very, very easy. And again, what we're looking for is changes, right? That's really what we're looking for, okay? And if you just think that you go visit grandma and you see grandma in the house and you're checking with her and by the time you leave you think everything's good and then you leave the house, what immediately starts happening? I wonder how grandma is now. That's what happens. I've run these businesses, right? The caregiver's worst time is the minute they leave the house, not when they walk in, because they have no clue how things are once they leave, all right? And so you can see that. Utilization of the information is phase 2. That's really important, right? It's not good enough just to have data. It's what you're going to do with it.
But how would that sensors recognize if that person took the medicine?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a limit, right? We're talking about non-invasiveness. Do we know for sure that the blue pill was ingested at noon? No. All right, but we do know that the activity that normally resembles taking that blue pill was accomplished at that time, within the time parameter, okay?
So you're making a pattern over the last few days and then trying to make sure the same pattern there's a disturbance, then you're just raising an alarm.
Correct, and it continues to learn over time, so it's much more finite a month later or 2 months later. Certainly in the first couple days it's less finite, right? We're still learning what the definition of normal is at that point. Usually we have a very good snapshot within 30 days. Yes?
Are you creating the baseline with the patient? So you walk them through their normal day?
Yes.
Time and
Yep. So that's an excellent question. So everybody's mind's working real well here. So yes, we start with a baseline of data, right? And we all do this, by the way, when we open, do an assessment and open a case for private duty or care. We start talking about what normal is, and we write this down. We just don't have anything to validate it ever. But we do that. So we enter that in the system, and that starts the baseline. Every task, by the way, can have an alert set up to it as well. So if somebody misses a meal, you can literally get a text message to whoever stakeholder you want. But from that, then, we have the opportunity to look and say, well, nothing they said seems to be right, which, by the way, is not that uncommon. All right, they never go to bed at 9:30. It's appearing, right? Or they don't eat lunch ever. They said they eat lunch all the time, right? So after about 30 days, we have an opportunity to go back in and use the data we have to do what we call a refinement period, and just query a little bit and say, hey, we're not interested in anything but truthful, real data. We want people, when they get their smartphones, to now believe it and see that the data is really giving them truthful insight. Yes, ma'am.
How have the providers that use this, how have they changed how they're treating those patients?
Yeah, that's really, really great. It's probably been our biggest chunk of work that we were least prepared for, right? I mean, we're a software company. They hired me because I was from the industry and I could get into a CEO room and talk about the value of this, peer to peer. The reality is most companies need some help with that very thing because we've taught our current systems for so long, right? But a couple examples are, using information to decide who to go visit today instead of just a calendar that was written a week ago, for instance, right? Which we would all say sounds pretty smart, actually, right? I mean, if we don't need to see Bob because he's doing great, why spend the money to go see Bob? Or why not do a phone call instead of a visit? So some of those things. The other thing is, we've got a lot of ACOs that are using care managers. There's an ACO over in Grand Rapids. One nurse care manager is monitoring 87 people distally, 87 people in private home. How do you think that goes, by the way? All right, and what tools are they using to decide how to know how everybody's doing? It's very, very challenging. So one of them is the ability to use those resources, nurse, down to an LPN, down to a home health aide, knowing that there's a variety of skill levels and being able to disperse them really smartly based on data saying what the need might be.
So is that what you meant by workflow?
Yeah, workflow. I mean, fundamentally, workflow is just starting by saying, for the first time, I'm going to use data to start to impact my day. Right now, there's very, very little of that going on. Even in the clinical world of Medicare, right, there's a known number of visits for a hip replacement. All right, and sometimes it's not so much how that goes after 2 weeks. It's just that's the schedule we're on. Right, we're not outcome-based, very focused that way. So just the concept that I'm going to use information that's coming to me in a 24-hour basis to look and say, what could we do today, is a workflow challenge. What we have found is with just a very little bit of help, it quickly becomes intuitive, which is very exciting to us, very exciting to me as a professional in this space. So instead of having to write out big training manuals and things like that, it's almost like taking these people back to school, why they went on to become a nurse, and this is very intuitive, right? I'm looking, let's go see these 5 people. It's telling us right here. And so that part of it's been fun. They've gotten through that workflow orientation very, very quickly.
So you've actually seen the behaviors of the providers change in how they...
Absolutely. And there's some business models that are absolutely demanding it, right? So we've got people that are getting paid $2,300 a day to take care of Mrs. Smith. That's it. I mean, if you can do it less, awesome. If you do it for more, you're going to lose money because it's a capitated reimbursement model. So their number one priority is how in the world do we save money without sacrificing quality of outcome? They're already in it. That the government is mandating some of that. Not everybody, right? But it's coming. And so when you introduce this, they're all about it and saying, oh, I'll send an LPN into RN. I won't go yet. Today I'll wait until go Friday because it looks like things are fine. Those are all ways to maintain the results, but not continue the escalation of healthcare costs.
So the ACOs are actually, you're seeing the ACOs actually hit their metrics and...
Beat their metric, yeah. Beat their metric. So, we have a handful of clients, their number one goal is saving money purely. So we have to deliver that. Other people, it might be other reasons. Certainly there's a end user component to this that we want their lives to improve. But For an ACO on the west side of Michigan, we have to produce a reduction in cost, or it's pointless, right? And so they're able to monetize that, knowing that, for $500 and $50 a month, we're making that threefold over.
Steve, you can stick around?
I am going to stick around, all right? So I appreciate it. Again, it's awesome to finally be here and speak with all of you, and appreciate your time.
We got one more presenter.
Wasn't sure how to take that down. Thanks. Thank you.
Which one are you going to do?
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Vel. I am the CTO for FusePLM and the CTO and the co-founder. Before starting about FusePLM, I thought I'll just get started with what is PLM, because it's kind of a not known term for everyone. So PLM is a product lifecycle management. This is primarily used for manufacturing companies. During the product development process, they have to maintain a lot of data of a product. That's where the PLM comes into picture. I would like to start with a growing statement nowadays, like it's a golden age for hardware companies. There are many reasons why we are trying to climb that. So there are a lot of things happening in the Internet of Things. So recently, the previous pitch was how they are going to use the data from the Internet of Things. And then there are companies which are in the 3D printing model. So if you are thinking of a hardware product, it's very cheap to create a prototype model with the 3D printing. And then there are some accelerators like Highway, so they are making the hardware into more and more easier. If you go back 10 years, there is not many hardware companies, but now there are so many hardware companies. And then this brings in more small and medium-sized companies also play into the manufacturing game. So what we are trying to solve, what is the problem we found out? So these small and medium-sized companies have the same unique needs like a big manufacturing companies to maintain the product entire structure. For example, the sensor, which was in the previous pitch. So for the sensor to have, it has to have internal parts, it has the circuits, it has a memory, it has a chip, all that. So they have to maintain a product data. But the small and medium-sized companies, they still use the old tools like Excel file to maintain their data. So what are the problems in the Excel file? It's very tedious to track changes. For example, you are using a chip resistor of 10 ohm today, and then you are changing it because the previous performance was not good. So it's very difficult to change from version 1 to version 2. And then it's very inconvenient or not a convenient way to give a modular view. Okay, I have a circuit board. Inside that I have these many elements, and inside that there are multiple elements. So it's very difficult to do. And then any error, any one small error may happen, cost lots of money when you produce that as a product. So that's why you can remember a lot of recalls from some of the hardware producers. They have recall because there was some error found out after it was produced. And am I talking there is no product exist to do this? No. There are companies exist to do this. There are big players because there were manufacturing companies was meant for big companies. So there were big software vendors who were doing this. So Siemens, Dassault, and PTC, those are one of the top 3 players, I would say. And what is the problem? So they are very high cost software, and then they charge a lot of consulting. It's basically million and multi-million. And I've been into that, as part of the consulting, as part of implementation last 10, 15 years. So I know what goes through there. And then it's very complicated to learn. We conduct weeks and weeks of training and then we even go to different locations. So there are a lot of, training also needed. One simple example would be an engineer who is working in this kind of company. When he goes home, he is using a lot of websites like Facebook or any other, latest HTML technologies. But when he go to his office and open his work website for tracking his products, it's totally very old technology, like 5 years or 10 years back. So we are trying to bring how we can give a rich user interface which can reduce the training. So we did some market research. We talked to a few companies, and I thought there will be two interesting quote I will show. So there is one IoT company from Dallas. So making a changes of bills of material, that's what they call in the engineering world the structure of the product. And Excel is very risky. I spent extra hours making sure I haven't broken anything. Okay, that's one important quote I thought I'll mention here. And then there is another one from medical device company. So this gentleman is coming from software industry to hardware industry within his company. So he came and he was raising why there are no tools like Jira, why there are no tools easy to use like that into the product lifecycle management. So Jira is meant for application lifecycle management. That's called ALM. So these are the two interesting codes, which made me and my co-founder to think about why we need to build FusePLM. So this is our solution. We want to build a completely affordable and easy to use as well as easy to configure a cloud-based SaaS system. And this is to manage parts, bills of materials, issues, and change all the processes. And then we wanted to introduce the cards-based workflow, which is more popular in the software industry. We want to bring that to the hardware industry. So that reduces time to close change order we see. And then we also integrated the every workflow or every change they make will also spawn into multiple individual tasks for the individual engineers. So the biggest pain for an engineer is to know what do I have to do today. Okay, so we introduced the tasks module, which gives what is my to do for the day. And then we are also introducing an impact visualizer. Okay, so we know how the tools exist in the market. I'm sure this is one unique thing we are providing. So if you have a product and let's say there is an iPhone product, if there is a home button is changing, then you need to know what are the impact. If the dimensions of the home button is changing, then the front panel has to be adjusted, and then the screen goes on top of that has to be adjusted. So all the changes can be visualized using our impact visualizer. And one last thing, we are introducing the industry first PLM bot. So we are trying to trademark it. So this is going in line with reducing the training, because the PLM bot can help you what you have to do, as well as providing more power. So you're trying to approve a change. It may spawn, hey, there are some impact if you approve this. Did you review it? Are you good with this? So that's another one. And there is no PLM bot, or there is no bot. A chat bot exists for PLM industry. We are planning to expand this to PLM bot into machine learning. So later when you're making a change, depending on what change you make, it will automatically tell you, hey, you have to check with these people. So that's what our goal. So this is our solution in short. And I thought I'll just go over some small screenshots, instead of going through a demo. So our target is registration to usage time under 10 minutes. This is a very, very challenging task, but we are trying to attempt that, because this is the biggest problem for the bigger companies, because they spend lots and lots of money in consulting to do it in 10 minutes. So we are trying to bring that. So this is kind of a workflow board where they maintain their issues or workflows changes. And this is the internal view of every processes. And then we are trying to see there is no IT expertise needed. So it's changes you're making, it's more within the place where you want to make change. For example, you want to, as an administrator, you want to make change to this board, you want to add one more status, just click the button here and add it. You don't have to go spend any, it automatically takes care of whatever has to happen inside the database. And then this is some details, and this is some approval process, how you can track if you're making a change. And there are some collaboration module where they can start interacting. It's purely bringing the latest Jira-based, how it is used in software industry, we're bringing into hardware. And then here is one of the impact visualizers. So if you, for example, there is a product which uses these many parts inside this. if you put this part, okay, this part is going through these 5 changes. So this visually indicates that these are 2 new, these are 3 changes, there are 1 removed from the previous structure. So this is one of our impact visualizer screen. And then this is the integrated to-do task list. So if you remember, one of the previous screen I showed about the approvals. So those approvals comes here as an individual task list. So the engineer or the project manager, he knows or she knows what he has to work on. And then that's about our product in one slide. And here is our team. It's me and then my co-founder Shreyas, but he is in Dallas. He was in Michigan and then he moved to Dallas. We are together almost 25 years of experience in this field. That's the reason why we thought, okay, this is something needed at this moment, and that's why we started. And then we worked in various companies, worked in companies where they produce this product as well as the consumer, as well as the implementation architects. We've played in all major roles. And here is our development team. We have 2 in Belarus and 5 in India. And here is our quick roadmap. We are about to wrap up our MVP, the version 1. So we already discussed, and we have around 5 customers who are volunteering to do some beta testing, so that they think that this is really going to be helpful. So we are working with, and then a couple of them in Michigan, a couple of them in Texas, and 1 in Silicon Valley. We are working with various people, and then we are also introducing documents management and the machine learning in our next release. And then these are our roadmap. Okay, with that, I want to stop here. This is my last slide. This is what we need. If you have any contacts of any manufacturing companies in any industry, we are currently focusing on medical device companies, IoT and wearable companies. If you have any other companies, please, I welcome and I appreciate if you can give some leads. Also, we are looking for investment. It's currently bootstrapped, me and my co-founder. If you have anyone who is interested in this kind of industry to invest, feel free to connect with me. Okay, that's it. So, any questions?
You guys look at instead of VCs, it looks like you talk about try to find capital. Is there a chance of looking more into angel investor? I know like there's a lot of angels up in Delphi, up in Midland.
Okay.
They get a lot in the manufacturing.
Okay.
Hitachi.
Yeah, I would be interested to get some details. Definitely, we want to look various opportunities. Sure. Yeah, please.
Who's your target customer for this? Is it enterprise level or is it for?
As you see, we are targeting small and medium-sized companies, and then one of our interesting model we are giving, where we are giving 2 free for our licenses. It's a SaaS cloud-based, because we think those small and medium-sized companies, especially even you can take startups, they are getting into hardware, but they do not know what they have to do. So this is where this fits in, and our primary target is small and medium. Definitely, we are not targeting for the big customers.
What's your pricing model?
We have a 3 pricing model. We don't have an exact price yet. So we have a freemium that is for the 2 users per hour, and then also we have a pro level where you get PLM bot access, and then we are talking about enterprise level where there are some companies who do not want to have their product information stored in our website. So enterprise customer, we are giving the 3rd level where you can give your database. Our system will connect with your database. So like that. Yeah. Those are the 3 levels. Yeah.
Is this focused more on engineering changes or operations management?
So our first focus is on the engineering change. So, and we are trying to also see different use cases. For example, quality process. Okay, that also has a workflow that also has to be done on some particular objects and items. So we already found a use case how this can be mapped. So we are trying to see wherever you have a workflow. And this can be fit in, and that workflow should connect to a product and then product structure. That's where this is primarily more beneficial. And one important thing I forgot to mention is we are trying to come out of the traditional workflow model. Okay, you have to go one by one process flow, right? We are trying to come out of the flowchart model into list view model. You can go drag and drop. That's your project, your change approval. And then we have some settings. That settings will allow you, hey, you cannot drop without completing all your approvals. It's all there. Just one click, just say, hey, I need all approvals to be dropped here. That's it. your setting is done.
So that is where the cards come in, like almost like a Trello card type of thing? Is that
Yeah, it's kind of Trello cards, kind of Jira cards you can compare like that.
Is it Jira?
Jira is also has
Similar to, that's a card-based?
card-based. That's also card-based. Yeah. That's mostly industry enterprise-wise used tool. That's why I use that as an example. Yeah. Any other question? Okay. Okay then. Thank you. Any question? All right. Okay. Thank you everyone for the opportunity.
We typically kind of tell you what kind of events are coming up. I know that if you guys have any other events to share with the team, but I know that we meet the first Wednesday every month. So next month we're going to be meeting in Grand Circus downtown Detroit, and then I know that TEDx Detroit is taking place at the Fox Theater tomorrow, I believe. So there will be that event all day at Fox Theater. We also have TiCon Ignite to Disrupt, which is pretty much an event that's held at the Henry in Dearborn. That's in October 27th and 28th, which is an event that's mostly driven by the Indian community. And then we have Accelerate Michigan that's coming up on November 3rd. That's going to be at the Copa Hall. That's where most of the start. Actually, it's probably 10 times as large as this. Pretty much a bunch of startup companies, there's big companies, enterprise companies that's already pretty well developed, but they go there to kind of listen to, go through sessions, but also get to pitch their ideas. I think they've already selected all the presenters, but you can actually go to the website and learn more.
The student competition is still open.
Oh, the student has still open. Okay, so you're applying.
Yes.
And then the Ann Arbor DNewTech is happening 2 weeks from now. It's on a Tuesday. It's third Tuesday every month. It's in downtown Ann Arbor. Any other events you guys know of that you want to share with the group?
The annual collaboration for entrepreneurship is the last Thursday of January, ACE 17.
Where's that at?
It's in Southfield again, I guess.
Usually in March, right? This time it's in January. Usually in March.
No, it's the end of January. Yeah.
I've got one.
Go ahead.
Wayne, I just learned today, Wayne State has started a community connections initiative. On October 12th, they have a meeting to try to bring various people together. Healthcare was one of the
Is this more community related or business?
It's IoT. It's sort of like try to connect the community on a citywide basis.
I don't know if you guys know, but I'm big in trying to get the community together. I know Detroit's in Wayne State, Wayne County. We're up here in Oakland County, and Ann Arbor, it's thriving out there with the startups and the technology. And then in Washington, it's one of the things that we kind of want to make sure that we're all one group. And I think that having those type of events, being able to represent them in different counties is really good. Wayne State's a pretty good place to hold those things.
Yeah.
So with that, we conclude our meetup. How about help yourself with the pizza and hang out? We'll be here till 8. Which table are we in?